All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Sankirtan mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to the assembled devotees who have come today to this reading and discussion of the Bhagavad-gītā from the original unedited books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. And at the beginning of this class or discussion, we have all these beautiful videos that you see of Prabhupada and how his movement during his personal presence was evolving in this tremendous way. And the blissful atmosphere that was part of his transcendental pastimes, which is historically recorded for all of our benefits in the current modern media technology. So a lot of times people will say, what was it like to ask us these questions? What was it like to have the association of Srila Prabhupada? Of course, it was very blissful or a great opportunity, but at the time when you're there, it's hard to really appreciate what what is happening for your spiritual benefit. But I can say that by seeing these videos and listening to Prabhupada's lectures online, reading his letters, and reading his books, most importantly, Prabhupada is living with us. That is the reality of the Prabhupada Disciples Association. That our goal is to present Krishna consciousness as a pure representation of Srila Prabhupada's fantastic work while he was personally present for us, and then all of us continue on with this understanding that Prabhupada lives in sound. He does live in sound. This is a yoga process. This is not a hatha yoga process. This is a bhakti yoga process based on Shravanam Kirtanam. This is the issue that so many people do not understand. It's actually got to the point where it's complete chaos, as Prabhupada predicted while he was with us. So this mission that we all have is to preach the truth to others and do not ever acquiesce to their nonsense. This is just completely unfortunate. And but we're not finished with our efforts. And just before we start, we are doing a Vyas Puja book. And I want all of our members, and this is leading us to building our database more thoroughly, which is expanding. We have a large database on Facebook, that one social media. We have over 11,200 members now in the Prabhupada Disciples Association in that media. But at the same time, we want all of you to write an offering for this Vyas Puja presentation to Srila Prabhupada. And this will show other people, it's important for people to see that all of us are together in this focus, that Prabhupada is our guru, both Diksha and Shiksha guru. and represent it. Please represent your feelings. You can write a little bit about yourself and who you are, how you came to Krishna, and why you are a Prabhupada disciple, and why you accept that Prabhupada is living in his Vani incarnation. So like that, express it in your own way. We'll compile this book. We're hoping to have, it'll be online. And it'll be a statement to the world, that this understanding is not just one person, it's all of us as a team. We're a team here, and we want everybody to join us in this effort to promote Srila Prabhupada in this manner, because his work is amazing. His work, as we are discovering in the reading of his diaries, is extraordinary, quite extraordinary. There's deep insight here. How he took care of money. I was talking to Drupada Prabhu yesterday, and he was noting in the diary readings how Prabhupada was meticulously documenting the use of Lakshmi in the service of Krishna. So this is something that we can learn from and also practice, how to engage Lakshmi in the service of Krishna. So we're going to go back in time to 1966, to Monday, June 13th. We read the summary, and now we're reading each individual page. Monday, June 13th, 1966. Prabhupada's in the Bowery. And the sunrise was 4:30 a.m. The sunset was 7:29 p.m. The moonrise was 1:27. Dasami, today in the morning class, there was some discussion on friendship and discipleship with Mr. Paul. I could not go out because Paul was not in. 2 letters received, one from Chandrasekhar and the other from the Indian Embassy, Washington, D.C. Good. So positive news. In the evening, there was meeting. The attendance was 9 only, but the collection was the poorest, at the same time the highest, because somebody paid in the basket $100. So the total contribution was $100, $103. There was a book collection of $2, so the total was $105. There was no expenditure today. At night, Carl remained with us. On Tuesday, June 14th, 1966. Sunrise was 4:30 a.m. Sunset was 7:30 p.m. Moonrise was 1:49. Ekadasi in the morning. Class, Carl, Nelson, and Paul attended the class. So only a few people in the morning. Book collection, $7. Paul paid for expenditure, $1. No letter received. Bank deposit, $120. Okay, so there's the money. He moved it forward. At night, at about 3 o'clock, Paul left this place, intimating Carl that he would be away for 2 days. Carl deposited money at telephone office. It is expected that next week, by Tuesday, there will be telephone connection in my name. $40 paid by Paul for such a deposit. Wednesday, June 15th. Have we got, I did send them. Yeah. Sunrise, 4:30, sunset, 7:30, moonrise. Dwadasi, paid $1 for expenditure. Paul was absent the whole day and night. In the evening, there was a meeting. There were about 12 heads, but the contribution was $5.50 only. The other day, $100 contribution is understood to be made by Carl. It is to be paid to Mr. Goldsmith for registration expenses. So Goldsmith's the lawyer that's going to register Prabhupada's organization, ISKCON. Thursday, June 16th, sunrise 4:30, sunset 7:31, moonrise 2:42. Trayodasi. Today, Carl was paid 75 cents for expenses, and $100 was withdrawn from the bank for incorporation charges to be paid Mr. Goldsmith. Purchase of typewriter ribbon was 85 cents. Typewriter ribbon. And fountain pen cartridges, 45 cents, $1.30. Total expenditures, 75 cents and $1.30, $2.05. And on Friday, the 17th of June, sunrise 4:31 a.m., sunset 7:31 p.m., moonrise 4 a.m., Chaturdasi. Paul was paid today $1 for expenditure. In the evening, Mr. Smith, press representative, a friend of Carl, came to see me. He took note of my activities, took one set of books. His girlfriend gave me the following address. Professor D. Kirk Liedecker, care of College Station, Fredericksburg, Virginia. Professor of philosophy at Mary Washington College of Virginia, specializing in Oriental philosophy. So Prabhupada's going to get a preaching program going at the university. Mr. Goldsmith hanged the notice on the door to be remain for 15 days in terms of the law. Is it expected that the incorporation will take place sometimes after the 6th of July, 1966. In the evening, there was a meeting. The collection was only $7. The book collection was $16. Total was $23, and the expenditure was $1. And we'll go to Saturday. We'll do one more page today. Saturday, June 18th, 1966, Vijaya Pandit. Sunrise 4:31 a.m., sunset 7:32, moon's rise and sets. Pratipada. Today, Paul was paid $1 for expenditures. The Sanskrit class was poorly attended by 2 only. So low attendance this last few days. Hardly anybody coming. Things will change. Things will change when Prabhupada moves out of here. The contribution was $2. The book collection was $2. The total was $4 income, and the expenditure was $1. One letter received from Vrindavan and the other letter received from Tirtha Maharaj. Vrindavan's letter replied and posted by Dawn. Mr. Paul Murray prepared his daily routine work. Let me see how he does. How does he follow it? It is a problem for me. Let Krishna help him to become good behaved. And then that's it. We'll end there. This Paul Murray, by the way, everyone, I've been reading the Leelamrita that was published by Satsrup Das. And it appears that he's calling him David. So I'm not sure why that is that way. Because here I wanted to highlight that his name is Paul Murray, and he will have a fit of rage. He was taking LSD, and so he's causing a big trouble for Prabhupada and his work. And soon Prabhupada will leave the Bowery residence and then move to 26th 2nd Avenue. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's move forward with the program with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu giving the reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā today. And we'll hear the introduction of Jaya Radha Madhava Bhajan by Srila Prabhupada, and then the class and discussion. Harimo.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Paramansa Paribhajagācārya Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai Nāmācārya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Jai Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai Sri Radha Krishna Bhog Gopinath Sam Khand Radha Khand Girivardhan ki Jai Vrindavan Dham ki Jai Navadvip Dham ki Jai Ganga Mai की जाए जमुना माई की जाए गुरु द्वारका धाम की जाए स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए और ग्लोरी टू देयर सिंबल और ग्लोरी टू देयर सिंबल थैंक यू वेरी मच
ओम अज्ञानातिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपः कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरोः Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagunara Gunatan Anvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpati Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Bhagavad-gītā As It Is. We are reading from the original 1972 Macmillan non-edited, non-adulterated version. Today we are reading from chapter 9, text number 9. All translations, transliterations, synonyms, and purports from His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Text number 9, page 456. Nachamam tani karamani nibadnanti dananjaya udasinabadasinam asaktam teshu karmashu na, never. Cha, also. Mam, me. Tani, all those. Karamani, activities. Nibadnanti, bind. Dananjaya, O conqueror of riches. Udasinavat, as neutral. Asinam, situated. Asaktam, without attraction. Teshu, in them. Karmasu, in activities. Translation. O Dhananjaya, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. One should not think in this connection that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has no engagement. In his spiritual world, he is always engaged. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated, he is always involved in his eternal, blissful spiritual activities. He has nothing to do with these material activities. Material activities are being carried on by his different potencies. The Lord is always neutral in the material activities of the created world. This neutrality is explained here. Although he has control over every minute detail of matter, he is sitting as if neutral. The example can be given of a high court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged, someone is being put in jail, someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth, but still is neutral. He has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. Similarly, the Lord is always neutral, although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. In the Vedanta Sutra, it is stated that he is not situated in the dualities of this material world. He is transcendental to these dualities, nor is he attached to the creation and annihilation of this material world. The living entities take their different forms in the various pieces of life according to their past deeds, and the Lord does not interfere with them. Text number 10. Maya dyakshena prakritihi suyate sacharacharam etunanina kaunteya jagada viparivartate. Maya, by me, adyakshena, by superintendence, prakritihi, material nature, suyate, manifests, sa, with, characharam, moving and non-moving, etuna, for this reason, anena, this, kaunteya, O son of Kunti, Jagat, the cosmic manifestation, viparivartate, is working. Translation: this material nature is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, and it is producing all moving and unmoving beings. By its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again. Purport: it is clearly stated here that the Supreme Lord, although aloof from all the activities of the material world, remains the Supreme Director. The Supreme Lord is the supreme will and the background of this material manifestation, but the management is being conducted by material nature. Krishna also states in Bhagavad-gītā that of all the living entities in different forms and species, I am the Father. The Father gives the seeds to the womb of the mother for the child, and similarly the Supreme Lord, by his mere glance, injects all the living entities into the womb of material nature. And they come out in different forms and species according to their last desires and activities. All these living entities, although born under the glance of the Supreme Lord, still take their different bodies according to their past deeds and desires. So the Lord is not directly attached to this material creation. He simply glances over material nature. Material nature is thus activated, and everything is created immediately. Because he glances over material nature, there is undoubtedly activity on the part of the Supreme Lord, but he has nothing to do with the manifestation of the material world directly. This example is given in the Smriti. When there is a fragrant flower before someone, the fragrance is touched by the smelling power of the person, yet the smelling and the flower are detached from one another. There is a similar connection between the material world and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Actually, he has nothing to do with this material world, but he creates by his glance and ordains. In summary, material nature, without the superintendence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, cannot do anything. Yet, The Supreme Personality is detached from all material activities. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances. We all offer our respectful obeisances to our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyayam Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danter Idam Yachi Punaha Punaha Srimadhurupa Padam Bhoja Dhulisyam Janma Janmani Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayati Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Ghoratvishi Namaham Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Shri Rup Sanatana Bhattara Gunata Sri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunata Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. In one lecture, Srila Prabhupada was explaining how the process of creation, the creation sequence takes place. This is also described in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There are elaborate, detailed description of how the material world is created, how the living entities are placed into the material world in their respective positions, how the planetary systems are created, how this whole system works. And Srila Prabhupada, in one lecture, he quoted from an Upanishad, Sasaekshata. In the beginning, Lord Narayana, by his glance over material nature, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam and Pancharatra literatures, Lord Narayana, in his form as Karanodakshaya Vishnu, is sleeping in the causal ocean, called Karana Samudra. And what happens that he glances over the material nature and it gets activated. And from that glance, all the three modes of nature get started, and all the different energies that are set in place for the creation of the material world are set in motion. And then Lord Brahma is created from the navel of Lord Vishnu. In this way, there are elaborate descriptions of the process of creation. It is actually fascinating, very interesting. As part of the preparation for this reading and discussion, I was reading a lecture which Srila Prabhupada gave in connection with these two verses. And Srila Prabhupada is explaining that our understanding is that life comes from life. Life does not come from inert matter. We see in the various Vedic literatures, specifically in the Upanishads, how it is described that the various energies of the Lord are activated, that God, Krishna, through his various expansions, like Lord Narayana, and the various Vishnus, Karano Dakshaye Vishnu, Garbo Dakshaye Vishnu, and the other Vishnu, are conducting the affairs of creation. But Krishna himself, in the spiritual world, in Goloka Vrindavan, is aloof. In other words, Krishna is explaining in this text number 9, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached, seated as though neutral. And Prabhupada is giving a very nice example in the purport. The example can be given of a high court judge sitting on his bench. By his order, so many things are happening. Someone is being hanged. Someone is being put into jail. Someone is awarded a huge amount of wealth, but still he is neutral. He has nothing to do with all that gain and loss. Similarly, the Lord is always neutral, although he has his hand in every sphere of activity. So this is a very important point. In America, they have a system of calling citizens to sit on a jury. And before one can sit on a jury, he has to go in a room where the different lawyers, both for the defense and the plaintiff, will ask different questions. And a judge is watching this proceeding to evaluate whether somebody is fit to sit on a jury, whether somebody is capable of being neutral. We had personal experience one time. They were asking me questions, well, what do you do for a living? And I answered I was a paralegal, and I had worked for a fairly large law firm. And immediately, one of the lawyers for defense, you're excused. They have the right to excuse certain potential jurors because the system is they have so many challenges they can give. And if they don't like a particular potential juror, they will dismiss. So I was very nicely happy, dismissed, I could go. But a judge was always neutral. He did not take one side or the other side. He's evaluating the proceedings between the different attorneys or lawyers, and he's just, in the same way, Krishna is neutral, always. He is situated in Goloka Vrindavana. We see in the Brahma Samhita, Goloka eva nivasati akilatma bhuto, that Krishna is situated in Goloka Vrindavana in his abode with his transcendental associates, the gopis, Lakshmis, his parents, his friends, the cows, the peacocks. This is his eternal situation. And through his agency, through his various potencies, he has different agents. Prabhupada was giving the example, just like a very rich man in India, there was a gentleman by the name of Mr. Birla, very wealthy person who established many industrial enterprises. Prabhupada was giving the example that although he is sitting in one place, by his energy, he's able to do so many things with a factory, manufacturing products, shipping the products. So many workers are there, so many managers there. Although he's aloof, by his potency, he has so many agents, managers, supervisors who are able to get the work done. And Srila Prabhupada was giving the example that even though one may be situated in a different location than a factory of self, by his energy is able to get things accomplished. Similarly, Krishna, through his various energies, there are descriptions in the Upanishad that Krishna, he had the various energies. And these energies are how everything is being done with the creation of the world, the maintenance of the world. There are three deities of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva for the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the material world. So this is very important because material scientists are proposing that this world is simply a combination of matter. It came up through some kind of big bang. And Srila Prabhupada many times would raise the argument, well, where did the big bang come from? Where did the original ingredients that created the big bang, where did that come from? Because we see in our practical experience in this world that nothing happens by chance. Nothing happens whimsically or by chance. So this idea that there is some kind of mystical or inexplicable chance idea, this is not very logical. This is not acceptable to the proponents of Vaishnava philosophy, the great acharyas, the great spiritual scientists in the bona fide disciplic succession, which is why so much care is given by these great acharyas and great personalities, great authorities. Acharyavan Purusho Veda. In the Chandogya Upanishad, Prabhupada used to often quote that one who has taken shelter of the bona fide acharya, the authorized acharya, everything is revealed. Everything is understood properly if one takes shelter of the bona fide acharya. That is why these great personalities have given so many detailed commentaries, so many detailed explanations of so many different topics. The Srimad Bhagavatam, the other day I was working on a project called Creation Sequence to somewhere or other analyze different purports from Srila Prabhupada in the Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gītā, how the world is created. And there are so many fascinating statements. So many fascinating statements. This is not speculation. In the lectures by Srila Prabhupada, we see Prabhupada is often using the word Shastra Chakshush, to see everything through the eyes of Shastra or the scriptures and the bona fide acharya. Sometimes some less intelligent persons will present some theories where they claim that they've understood the so-called tradition, that they've understood the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. Well, that's nice. But the way we understand the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is through the authority of the bona fide realized acharya, like Srila Prabhupada. We had the good fortune several times in 1977 of watching Srila Prabhupada translate the Srimad Bhagavatam. There was a very large volume of Sanskrit commentaries. It's about 12 or 14 or 16 inches thick, very thick volume, which has so many commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam. Also, there is a publication with the commentary of Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Baladev Vidyabhushana, Sanatan Goswami, so many commentaries, very detailed, very complex actually. And Prabhupada, through his amazing scholarship and unique insight as a pure devotee, as a fully realized pure devotee, was able to distill or summarize the essence of all these commentaries and give these purports. This is a great gift to the world. This is not simply dry scholarship or academic knowledge. This is realized knowledge. We see in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Antya-lila chapter 5, how Srila Prabhupada explains that when a pure devotee speaks, when the spiritual master speaks, it should be understood that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is speaking through him. It is not just some scholar who had some knowledge of Sanskrit who is translating some grammatical text. No. This is realized knowledge from a person who is completely beyond the influence of the modes of nature. Dhira. We've often discussed the meaning of this word dhira, D-H-I-R-A. We see in the Bhagavad-gītā in the 2nd chapter, Krishna explained, dhirastatra namuhyati. We see in the Ishabhasya Upanishad, it is explained, iti shushruma dhiranam. It has been heard through the bona fide dhira. And Srila Prabhupada explains, one who is completely undisturbed by the whirlpool of the material nature, completely, totally transcendental to the influence of the modes of material nature. I've often told this story. Srila Prabhupada explained one time to one disciple, the difference between you and me is I could be in a room with 10 attractive naked women and I would not be in the least agitated, but you would be. That is the difference. So Srila Prabhupada is a very special personality, special empowered personality who came in bona fide disciplic succession, and he has presented these purports for the benefit of mankind. This is our only tradition. When people claim they're following some kind of tradition, of course, they never explain where they got their understanding of tradition, whether it's some Sahajiyas, some caste Brahmins, some caste Goswamis, or some neo-mat somewhere. We don't mind if they want to say that they follow some tradition, but which tradition are they following? Our only tradition is to follow the order of the spiritual master. That is our only tradition. Because we see, especially in India, there are so many different interpretations of tradition, even in our own sampradaya. Bhaktivedanta Thakur, through his writings, identified 13 different apasampradayas, or deviated branches of disciplic succession. And now we see, in a short amount of time, since Srila Prabhupada departed in 1977, on November 14th, 1977, there have been so many different interpretations of Prabhupada's instruction. I keep coming back to this point of many people who claim that we follow tradition. Then why is it that you have so many deviations? For example, you have so many people, they're inventing and manufacturing new mantras for kirtan and bhajan. Why? Did Prabhupada teach you that? Did Prabhupada identify these new concocted mantras you're singing? Did Prabhupada ever told you in his books to chant these concocted mantras? So which tradition are you following when you're chanting these concocted mantras? Some mental concoction? Manufactured some new idea that you think that you are so advanced that you can invent your own way of chanting? This is a very important point, because we see every day when we have those readings and discussions before the class, Vishwakarma Prabhu is reading from Prabhupada's diary, and we can see so many details that Prabhupada took to begin the Krishna Consciousness movement in America, especially in New York. Now, I was born in Canada, so I may not be totally familiar with the circumstances that were prevailing in 1966 in New York, but I'm sure many people on this call are very familiar with the conditions in New York at that time, especially in the area where Prabhupada was living. the Bowery. Some of these places are not the best places. In very difficult situations. Prabhupada did not have financial support. There was no big institution behind him. There was no wealthy patrons that were giving him all kinds of money. Prabhupada was just fulfilling the order of his spiritual master. When we were in Chandigarh, India, in October of 1976, there was one devotee, Chaitanya Prabhu, who organized a very nice press conference with so many journalists, radio, television, newspapers, magazines, a room full of different journalists. And everybody wanted to know, why is it that you've become so successful? Because you've got all these Western disciples following you, and you're preaching this Bhagavad-gītā everywhere, you've become successful. How is that? Why is that? And Prabhupada's point was, I simply followed the order of my spiritual master and present Bhagavad-gītā as it is. Now what we currently have is Bhagavad-gītā as it is not, a concocted broth of speculation, interpretations, and many times outright concoctions by some self-appointed interpreters who are going to tell us what Prabhupada supposedly really meant or really intended in some obscure manuscript. But we don't find any record anywhere where Srila Prabhupada ever told any disciple, what to speak of these so-called editors, that they should go to the Bhagavad-gītā, go back to the manuscript, and change everything up and down. That is not appropriate. If they wanted to create a new edition or a revised edition, or whatever they want to call it, they should identify it. Revised edition by such and such person. But they want to claim that this was the real intent of Srila Prabhupada with their revised interpretation. That is nonsense. Just like in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya, they have the commentary on Bhagavad-gītā by Ramanuja. They also have the Sri Bhashya, the commentary on Vedanta Sutra by Ramanuja-ācārya. Then they have a subsequent commentary by one Sudarshan Suri, a follower of Ramanuja, who commented upon the original commentary of Ramanuja. The Madhva Sampradaya also has similar commentary of Madhva, who was commented upon by Jayatirtha and other great acharyas. Now, my question is, because some people who know Sanskrit, they can change so many different grammatical combinations. Can you make your own changes to the Sri Bhashya or the Brahma Shuddha Bhashya of Madhvacharya and go to Udupi or Sri Rangam and think they will accept your changes? They will laugh at you. No one would dare to touch this commentary. I had personal experience in 1976 when we were living in Sri Rangam in the house of the family of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, where there was one Vaishnava Brahmin, Sri Vaishnava, follower of Ramanuja, named Venkat, not Venkat Bhatta, but he was the main follower of he was the main priest of all the priests at the Sri Ranga temple. Name is Rangaraj Bhatta. With this person, he took me around the temple and showed me different places. In one place, they had some writings in copper plates that was written by Vedanta Deshika. He was a very famous acharya after Ramanuja who wrote that book called Mayavada Shatadushani, 100 Arguments Refutation the Mayavadi Philosophy. So this great acharya, he arranged to write in copper plates, so in Sanskrit, so many different things. So I asked him the question, in all these 1,000 years since this has happened, has anybody tried to change? And he blocked his ears. He said, oh no, nobody can touch. Nobody can touch. Nobody can change. Compare that to what we've seen in the original Bhagavad-gītā, the 1972 Macmillan Bhagavad-gītā, Srila Prabhupada's edition, and what they have done. And they're claiming that this is to clarify the mistakes in the text or the mistakes in this manuscript or whatever mistake they claim. But Prabhupada approved that book. He was lecturing from this Bhagavad-gītā every day. We only knew of 2 documented changes which he said to do. Cattle raising, said that should be changed to protection, cow protection. And the other one, in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā, knower of the self, Kshetrajna, there's a recorded conversation where Srila Prabhupada said that this should be corrected. But he never gave elaborate explanation how 5,000 changes should take place in his Bhagavad-gītā. That's why we say in the beginning of this discussion, we are reading from the non-edited, non-adulterated book. That revised Bhagavad-gītā is not authorized. Prabhupada never authorized it. It is an insult to Srila Prabhupada. It is an insult to the great acharyas of our disciplic succession. It is an insult to our tradition, what they have done. Some time back, one devotee wanted to debate with me. I said, well, we may have a little problem before you can even debate. You've got 2 different sets of books. You've got an original book written by Prabhupada and an adulterated book, an edited book by some self-appointed interpreter, some so-called editor, some over-intelligent editor who think they can change everything upside down. So why don't you return all the changes to the original text, the 1972 text, and then we can have a discussion. But then they have no answer, except, oh, we're just trying to correct the mistakes. We're just trying to correct first they say, oh, we have to correct the typing mistakes, the capitalism mistakes. Then it goes on to the grammar, then the floodgates are open. That is not authorized. If they want to do anything, they could put some little footnotes at the end of a chapter with some minor explanation. But not that they change the text and claim that this is Prabhupada's book. It is not Prabhupada's book. It is your interpretation. It is your revision of Prabhupada's books, and it is not authorized. As simple as that. Hare Krishna.
Haribo, thank you very much for your explanation on today's verses and further comments. And the purpose of the lessons given in the Bhagavad-gītā is to help us understand our position, everyone, in relation to Krishna and his position as the supreme creator of everything, that we are simply minute parts and parcels of the Supreme Lord, insignificant actually. There are billions and billions of planets. There are trillions of living entities scattered throughout the cosmic creation. And somehow or other, we've been born at this time and place in the universe, and we have the blessings of Krishna and Lord Chaitanya to be awakened out of our state of illusion, confusion. And this is a great opportunity for us to make advancement in the human form of life through this process that was taught by our spiritual master, by his blessings upon us. It's I used to think back in the early years of my life and hear Prabhupada say, you just devote one life to Krishna. Just do that. I thought, well, gee, that's a long time. That's a long time. I'm 24 years old. You want me to devote all of my life, 50, 60, 70 years to Krishna consciousness? That's a long time. And then all of a sudden you're an old man. And you're looking at this and going, that's a short time. So the commitment to Krishna consciousness is a lifetime commitment. And this gives us an opportunity to develop our Krishna consciousness like a plant that's carefully protected by the farmer. And we're enabled through this to get deeper realizations of who we are, who Srila Prabhupada is, and what our relationship with Krishna is. Now, we had a very interesting question, Vinkat Bhatta, that I think Ron Singh gave us last session, which has been on my mind since that class. I think it was something, what is the difference between, or is devotion and prema the same thing? Do you recall that question?
I think it was, what is the difference between devotion and pure love? Pure
yeah,
love, I think
that was it. And ever since, I did make a reference to that we should read forward in the Madhya Lila, chapter 23. But I thought today, to compliment Yaśodā-nandana's Prabhu, yes, Ron, you did ask that question. I wanted to further illuminate that through this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, because it does touch on a lot of points that are relevant to today's class in terms of the position of Prabhupada as a pure devotee, and also how we should act as devotees. A devotee is different in the sense that he is committed to the process of bhakti yoga. So let's just go to that if we could, Vinkat, and then we'll carry on with the discussion. I just want to touch on that. Like I said, I want to thank the Prabhu that asked that question, because it stirred me for the last 3 or 4 days. Just the question. We'll go right to the verse. When that ecstatic emotional stage intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. Such love is life's ultimate goal and the reservoir of all pleasure. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur summarizes the growth of love of Godhead as a gradual process. A person becomes interested in devotional service by some good fortune, like all of us did. Eventually, he becomes interested in pure devotional service without material contamination. At that point, a person wants to associate with devotees. As a result of this association, he becomes more and more interested in discharging devotional service. And here the essence, hearing and chanting. The more one is interested in hearing and chanting, the more he is purified of material contamination. Liberation from material contamination is called anartha nivritti, indicating a diminishing of all unwanted things. This is the test of development in devotional service. If one actually develops the devotional attitude, he must be freed from the material contamination of illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. In other words, Prabhupada saying you've got to stop being an animal. These are the preliminary symptoms. When one is freed from all material contamination, his firm faith awakens in devotional service, step by step. When firm faith develops, a taste arises, and by that taste, one becomes attached to devotional service. When this attachment intensifies, the seed of love of Krishna fructifies. This position is called priti or rati, affection, or bhava, emotion. When rati intensifies, it is called love of Godhead. The love of Godhead is actually life's highest perfection and the reservoir of all pleasure. So progressive development, everyone. Thus, devotional life is divided into two stages: sadhana bhakti and bhava bhakti. Sadhana bhakti refers to the development of devotional service through the regulated principles. The basic principles for the execution of devotional service is faith. Above that, there is association with devotees. And after that, there is initiation. So beautiful. By a bona fide spiritual master. We were blessed. After initiation, when one follows the regulated principles of devotional service, one becomes freed from all unwanted things. In this way, one becomes firmly fixed and gradually develops a taste for devotional service. The more the taste grows, the more one's desires to render service to the Lord. In this way, one becomes attached to a particular mellow in the Lord's service, Santa Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya. As a result of such attachment, bhava develops. Bhava bhakti is the platform of purified goodness. By such purified goodness, one's heart melts in devotional service. Bhava bhakti is the first seed of love of Godhead. The emotional stage is there before one attains pure love. When that emotional stage intensified, it's called prema bhakti, or transcendental love of Godhead. The gradual process is also described in the following two verses found in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So we'll end with that, but the point is that this process is a very gradual process to understand these transcendental facts about creation, about Krishna, about the spiritual master. One has to apply himself. For example, we all know we're responsible to chant our rounds every day. That's the first prerequisite of a devotee. Chant your rounds and then go from there step by step. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please, if you could further comment.
I'm going to read from a lecture that Prabhupada gave in Calcutta on the same verse on June 30th, 1973. June 30th, 1973. Prajumna avajananti mam muda manushim taunumashritam parambhavamajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Bhagavad-gītā 9:11. Fools deride me when I descend in a human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. Prabhupada. So Krishna is not an ordinary man. Therefore Krishna warns this, avajananti mam mudaha. 9:11 Bhagavad-gītā. Mudha, rascals. To accept God as man and to accept man as God, this is rascaldom. Rascaldom means to accept a man as God and to accept a God as man. This is rascaldom. Avajananti mam mudaha. We can understand who is an intelligent man and who is a rascal by this criterion. In another place, Krishna says, Namam dushkritru mudaha prapadyante naradamaha. Bhagavad-gītā 7:15. Mudaha, rascals, they do not surrender unto me. Krishna is canvassing. Especially in India, he appeared. He is canvassing. Sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja. Bhagavad-gītā 18:66. He is canvassing, but the mudas, they will not accept it. Avajananti mam mudaha. Oh, why shall I accept Krishna? I've got my own God. I manufacture my God. So we've got very shortcut criterion to understand a rascal an intelligent man. What is that? If he's a devotee of Krishna, then he's intelligent man. If he's not, then he's rascal. That's all. No, he does not accept Krishna as God, but he's got many other gods. Especially in our Hindu society, they say, the Mayavad philosophers, they say that everyone is God. How everyone can be God? If everyone is God, then what is the significance of God? Even not demigods. In Shastra it says, Yastu Narayanam Devam Brahma Rudradi Devatehi. Madhya Lila, Chaitanya Charitamrita 18:116. Not to speak of ordinary demigods, but big demigods, just like Brahma, Lord Shiva, even Vishnu. Of course, Krishna is Vishnu Tattva. Krishna is not in the category of Jiva Tattva. There are Jiva Tattvas, there are Shakti Tattvas, there are Vishnu Tattvas. People do not know it. Therefore, in the next line, it is said, Parambhavam Ajanantaha. They do not know what is Vishnu Tattva, what is Jiva Tattva, what is Shakti Tattva, how things are working. Parambhavam Ajanantaha, Bhagavad-gītā 9:11. Mama Bhuta Maheshwaram, I am the Supreme Person. In another place, Krishna says, Mattaha Parataram Nanyat, Bhagavad-gītā 7:7. There is no more superior personality than me. These are the facts. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said, Ishvaraha Parama Krishna, Brahma Samhita 5:1. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You can become God, I can become God, he can become God, but Supreme God is Krishna. If we accept that we're all gods, but still there is distinction. Here is male God, here's female God, here is child God, here is an educated God, here's a foolish God. But if we're all gods, then we have to qualify these gods in this way. There are differentiations from one God to another. That means one God is superior than another God. That you have to accept. So in this way, if you go on making progress, who is the best God, then you come to Krishna. Ishvaraha Parama Krishnaha Sachidananda Vigraha. Brahma Samhita 5:1. Sachidananda Vigraha. So the Param Brahma, impersonal, they say, no. Vigraha, person. Just like you and me, person. But they cannot imagine how a person can become so powerful, as in the previous verse it is said, Maya Dyakshena Prakritihi Suyate Sacharacharam, Bhagavad-gītā 9:10. A person is directing. Just like we direct a big businessman, he's sitting in his room alone, but he is directing the whole factory, whole business, everything. That is being done. Although Krishna is in Goloka Vrindavana, he has nothing to do. Why God has something to do? Then what kind of God he is? Here we see practically a big man, a big minister, a big prime minister or a president. He's also sitting, giving direction. He has nothing to do. Similarly, Krishna also, he has nothing to do. Krishna is enjoying. Just like you see Krishna's form, he's enjoying with Srimati Radharani. He has nothing to do. That is confirmed in the Vedic literature. Natasya karyam karanam cha vidyati. Why God should be busy doing something. In this way, Srila Prabhupada gives so many wonderful explanations of these various verses that we're reading in Bhagavad-gītā.
Yes. I see that we have Janaspriya here from Hawaii. I hope his microphone is working. I wanted you, if you could further comment on our position as the conditioned soul, struggling to get out of the material world by the grace of Krishna and the spiritual master.
Hare Krishna. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much.
I love this. One of my favorite.
Just move your microphone differently. I think you moved the wire or something.
Hold on. Mm.
Yeah, it was fine initially, but then
Is
it got
that
worse.
better? Hare Krishna?
Yeah, that's
Can you hear?
better now. We can hear you now
Okay.
properly.
Yeah, it's amazing how ignorant and foolish people they. I really get upset when people said Krishna cannot do whatever. It's like, and we hear this from many. Oh no, Krishna cannot do that. And how could we say that that Krishna could not do anything? He could do anything he wants because he is the ultimate personality. We're thinking because we cannot do something, then we think, oh, Krishna can do that. Well, this is pure ignorance. And Prabhupada is explaining here so nicely that Krishna is God. He doesn't have to do anything. He only does what he pleases. Otherwise, he wouldn't be God. So Krishna, yes, he's very busy. He's busy dancing with the gopis. He's busy playing marbles with his friends. He's busy being mischievous, stealing butter. He's very busy, but he's doing what he wants to do. Krishna, we are forced to act by the modes of nature. That's the big difference. Krishna is not forced by the modes of nature. But we are under the modes of nature, so we're forced to act this way or that way. So Krishna simply does what he wants when he wants, and nobody could check him. And that's the most amazing part, that he's autonomous. He doesn't need to ask permission. If we have been married, we know that a lot of times our wife or our partner won't let us do whatever we want to do, and we become very frustrated. So Krishna doesn't have this problem because he's the ultimate Supreme Personality of Godhead. He could do whatever he pleases. And then we need to understand that this is a process. Simply because we chanted a few years, we might have chanted Maha Mantra and follow the principles. We think that we should be very illuminated and very advanced, and this is not true. It could be true because Prabhupada asked, how long does it take to become Krishna conscious? And Prabhupada said it might take 1 second, or it might take millions of lifetimes. So that one, the ball is in our court. Depends in our sincerity and how much we endeavor to follow the instructions of the Guru. If we want to be successful in spiritual life, we have to have complete faith in Srila Prabhupada and in the holy name. If we chant the name nicely and we follow the instruction, then there is some hope. There's hope for anybody that sincerely believes in Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada is so ready to give us as much bhakti as we could handle. Just like Krishna is ready to give us as much wealth as we could handle. And we see this, that Prabhupada, he knew how to handle Krishna's wealth. And Krishna just gave him unlimited resources. So if we don't have enough money to do our projects, it means that there's something on the process that is not right. Why? Because we still, somewhere within, there's this I, me, mine factor, and that's impeding our progress towards full bhakti, full prema bhakti, or partial prema bhakti. I myself, I just feel so fortunate that I'm able to associate with great personalities like all the great sages on this meeting. By Krishna's mercy, I've been given this opportunity. So I appreciate the association, and I try to take advantage of that. And Hare Krishna.
Well, thank you very much for those comments. Very illuminating. And one of my godbrothers called me up. He said, I think the demigods are lined up in the universe to join our class. I said, really? Why do you say that? He said, because We're reading from the original books of Srila Prabhupada, and we're hearing in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the assembly of devotees has come with to hear Sutta Goswami describe Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages of Naimisharanya, and he said, and this is a timeless subject. It has no limit. And therefore, because you're presenting Prabhupada's literatures and the philosophy in such a pure manner, the demigods are lined up listening to the class every day. So we should feel blessed, like you said, that we're allowed to have this service throughout the week. We have 3 classes a week, and all kinds of wonderful information is coming to us on a regular basis. I see that we have our friend, our godbrother Garuda Prabhu with us on the line. I thought I saw his hand go up. Are you still there, Garuda Prabhu? Haribol. Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Good to see you.
Good to see everyone here. I'd like to thank Ronald Singh for harassing me last night for not being here for the last few weeks. So it was a very nice nudge. I've been so busy. I've been on sabbatical, traveling too much. But I wanted to.
I saw that. I saw that.
I wanted
you
to
were
address.
Eating ice cream. You were eating ice cream.
Oh, yes. Gelato vegano.
Okay.
Yeah, gelato vegano in Florence. But,
Go ahead,
here's
please.
Here's the thing, Yaśodā-nandana Ji's a wonderful class that ended on the note of the, corrupted Vani. Not that Prabhupada's Vani can be corrupted, but the corrupted books that present Prabhupada's Vani, they're supposed to present it purely. Well, one of the reasons I've been so busy and unable to attend to these glorious meetings is because I'm just completing, in fact, just as during this class, I'm just completing a 12-chapter book that will be published on the posthumous editing of a great master's work, special focus on the work of A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda. So I am showing here that this is, it's an outrageous thing that's been done. When you get a painting, you frame it. You don't redo the painting unless you have no respect for the artist. So it's not a question of editing Prabhupada's books. It's a question possibly of annotating them, which is a frame. But you don't ever touch the text, the original text that Prabhupada left. This is fixed. The framing can be fluid. You can always change the frame of a painting. You don't alter the artist's work. And it's unthinkable that after someone should depart this world, and I'm talking just basic ethics here, Vishwakarmaji.
Yes.
It's unthinkable after anyone departs this earth to start changing something around without their, okay, and that's for an ordinary person, ordinary, okay. But Prabhupada's works are so sacred and so dear and so powerful and so aligned with Guru Parampara that any audacity, any audacious move to edit his books is simply outrageous. And I commend Yaśodā-nandana Ji for expressing that. I could even hear his voice go up and some little fury there, which frankly I don't blame him. So now it's not that some of the editors didn't come up with some important things to consider, but you don't go in without transparency and start changing things. This is where annotations are the scholarly thing to do. And I've put in my last chapter of this book photographs of Prabhupada's Delhi Bhagavatams, where he annotates his own works. Annotation is the Vaishnava way, Prabhupada's way, and the scholarly way. What the BBT editors have done is atrocious as what Yaśodā-nandana Ji has communicated. So I'd like to underscore that.
Okay, well, thank you. Yaśodā, maybe you could further comment.
Well, I think Garuda Prabhu is raising a very important point. There is a standard academic scholarly way of making comments upon the works, just like, for example, in the Madhva Sampradaya, by the time Madhvacharya wrote his commentary on the Mahabharata called Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya, there were many editions of the Mahabharata floating around in Sanskrit. And he took a lot of these editions and compiled, in his opinion, what he considered to be an authorized version. Now, since that time, there are numerous scholars in India that have compiled different scholarly annotated editions of Mahabharata, but nobody will change the text. Nobody has the audacity and the temerity to go into the text and change the text. I find it very interesting because recently I had a conversation with a Christian lady who was trying to convince me about the genuineness and bona fide position of the Bible. I said, well, it's a pious belief, but for your information, the Bible wasn't spoken in English. It was originally spoken in Aramaic and subsequently in Greek. And what you would need to show is the original text, the word-for-word translation, the synonyms, and then how you have arrived at the proper English translation. Otherwise, how do we know that what they're saying in the English version is bona fide, is acceptable? And this is the problem we have with people who think, oh, I'll go back to the manuscript and rewrite the book. Now, it should be noted here that, there are witnesses like Govinda Dasi and others who saw Srila Prabhupada in Hawaii in 1969, 1970, where Srila Prabhupada personally directed Hayagriva to edit his Bhagavad-gītā and his Srimad Bhagavatam first canto. Now, Prabhupada has made a lot of controversial comments about many devotees, but the point is that Prabhupada, the way that the Bhagavad-gītā was done, this 1972 edition, it was supervised by him. And to go and change that is not proper. That's not appropriate. That's all I can say for the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, everyone, for attending today's program. We're coming to the end. And we will be conducting Srimad Bhagavatam class. As Garuda Prabhu mentioned, we are reading from the 62 version, which I find the most pleasing of all Prabhupada's books.
Oh yeah, it's beautiful.
There's a certain magic in it, like especially back when we first got it, Prabhu, in the the late 60s and early 70s, there was a magic in it. Yeah. To see the cover and see the way Prabhupada presented it. And there were some, let's say errors in the typing, etc. But that made it even more interesting and more authentic for us, as opposed to having the slick, polished version that came later. But nonetheless, this Srimad Bhagavatam class, like I was mentioning, is being attended by many great personalities throughout the universe. And we want to thank everyone that came today to join us in this discussion of Gita. And we're having these 3 classes a week. And our influence is expanding globally through the presentation of Prabhupada in his original Vani incarnation. So this is very important. Now, Ron Singh, Garuda has also been harassing me this morning. So to tell everyone about his upcoming festival, he's having a festival, Janmashtami festival and a Vyas Puja festival in Sacramento on I believe it's the 8th and 9th of September. We'll have the posters ready in a day or two. And also, I wanted to let everyone know that Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu will be traveling down from Twain Harte in the mountains. He'll be coming down to Sacramento to give the talks and associate with all the devotees there in our efforts to expand our preaching work throughout the world. So on we go, marching forward. And like I said, if you're going to write a Vyas Puja offering, some of you may have missed it at the beginning of the program when we talk about the diaries. We've been reading all the diaries of Srila Prabhupada, the original diaries, and getting all the information on his great work that in the early years that we are presenting an offering from the Prabhupada Disciples Association, who respect Prabhupada's position in his as our guru, and the living on as a guru for everyone without any problem that comes when people take that role and are not authorized. So like that, please make an offering. We're hope to have hundreds of offerings. We do have 11,200 members right now in our Facebook group page, Prabhupada Disciples Association. We have over 150 classes now recorded on YouTube in the Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube page. And we are producing magazines and books and things like that moving forward. So this is work in progress. So thank you, everyone. And if you need to be in touch with any of us, please, by all means, you can get a hold of Vinkat Bhatta, or you get a hold of any of us. He can give you our contact information, and we'll move forward in this battle against the war on Maya. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Let's join the kirtan, chant along, and relish the opportunity to hear Prabhupada sing the Hare Krishna mantra.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Vijay Pandit Prabhu, grazie, tutte le glorie sua divine grazia, Srila Prabhupada. Come va?